The views expressed in this program do not reflect the views of the staff, management, or licensee of this station. This is 91.7 FM WHUS Stores. I am Pedal and Ron, and you are listening to Bicycle Talk. This is episode 390 to be broadcast on April 10th on WHUS 91.7 FM and WHUS.org. Welcome to Bicycle Talk without my friendly co-host, the lovely Dr. Fran Storich. If you're watching on Facebook Live, please feel free to comment. I should be able to respond, or maybe not. We'll see. Bicycle Talk is a show where we talk about bicycles, bicycle culture, bicycle advocacy, upcoming news in cycling, the bicycle calendar, and the bicycle business. If you have a comment or you'd like to contribute information to the show, you can leave your comments right down here below if you're watching on Facebook Live, or you can simply email me at bicycletalk1@gmail.com. You can also listen to past episodes of Bicycle Talk on WHUS.org, iTunes, Spotify, and now on my Bicycle Talk YouTube channel. Rant's Rant of the Week. Oh, the crashes. Man. The monument season, or the cobblestone season, or the classic season, or whatever you want to call it, has just been riddled with crashes. Lots and lots of crashes. Understandably so, we have problems with, cobblestone streets when we're dealing with some of these high-level European races. So obviously that is going to be part of the factor here. But, oh my God, the crashes were just outrageous. So outrageous that Wout Van Aert is out for a while. He went down a couple of weeks ago. Real bad. Broken collarbone, maybe even shoulder issue too. Not good. Not really good. And of course, the Paris Roubaix, which was yesterday, the classic Hell of the North, was just riddled with tons and tons of crashes. And there is, there's a bit of a debate about tubeless tire safety on the cobbles, let alone anywhere else, as I might add to that. But anyway, we will talk about that a little bit more in the show. And, and by the way, make sure you're wearing the right socks, the UCI. I'll talk about it more later. Anyway, sad shout out to the Uconn women's basketball team. Unbelievable effort, taking 7 wounded warriors to the Final Four. We do love you, ladies. I can't believe you got as far as you got, really, considering. But I think that tip of the hat has to go to Coach Oriema for pulling off one of the more brilliant NCAA final moves that I have seen in a long time. Pretty amazing. Anyway, this more in the show. We'll talk about that. On the positive side, I gotta go back to basketball one more time because we gotta go Huskies. Tonight is the men's tournament, and it's gonna be really, really interesting to see. We'll see what happens here. Congratulations go out to Uconn men's coach Dan Hurley for winning the Naismith Coach of the Year award. Very cool. The Paris Roubaix. Did you see it? The fastest ever, 5 hours, 25 minutes, and 58 seconds. Oh my God, they were just flying. And the thing is, they also put in these interesting barriers entering into some of the cobbled areas to try to keep the speed down a little bit as they went in, and it was still the fastest one ever. Still up. Oh, anyway. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the show. It was pretty cool. What else are we going to talk about on the positive side? Bicycles and politics, of course. Yeah, we're going there. I'll talk about that a little bit later. Mechanical minute and cycling tips. How to wrap your handlebar tape correctly and perfectly, right? Yeah, it's a thing. A lot of you have probably mastered it. And you know exactly how to wrap your handlebar tape. And for those of you who are doing that, then good for you. But there's also people out there that are just trying it for the first time, or they've tried it for the 10th time and been very unsuccessful with it, and found that as you ride your bike maybe 3 or 4 times or so, your bar tape comes unwrapped, and you know, that's like, why does it do this? I thought I wrapped it tight enough. And then if you wrap it too tight and you tear the tape when you go to wrap it, that's another problem that can happen. Yeah, there's kind of a fine line between exactly tight enough and pulling so hard that you rip your tape. So there is a I'm not going to say that there's any kind of a trick or a technique to it. It's really more of a feel than anything else. But also the direction in which you wrap your handlebar tape is sometimes a point of contention among cyclists and mechanics. Many tend to follow the rule of thumb of wrap toward the bike, but the best direction for you can depend on your perfect hand placement. So it really comes down to, do you ride on the tops or do you ride on the bottoms of your bike? If your thumbs sit more toward the top of the bar, it means the hands roll more to the outside, and that means you want to wrap away from you. That's clockwise on the right and counterclockwise on the left. I tend to I've been wrapping bars for a long time, and I tend to find that the best way to wrap the bars is to start from the bottom and work your way up. And the reason I start from the bottom and work my way up is because you have a tendency to, you're pushing out towards the brake levers when you're up on the top of the hoods and on the handlebar tape, and it'll just peel the tape back if you don't do it that way. So you really kind of have to have the finishing of the bar taping to be at the very top of the bar, right up by the stem. So that's what I would say before you start. You, of course, want to have a pair of scissors available or a knife available if you're good with a knife. I prefer scissors in this particular case. I also always have available some electrical tape, which is that, you know, black friction tape, the stuff that really stretches nicely. That is also a way of dealing with that. And then, of course, you want to clean your bars off completely from your old handlebar tape. And you want to take off any extra residue that may be on the bars themselves. Make sure that the cables are taped properly into the handlebar so that you don't get a lot of movement with that after you've put your bar tape on. So again, I use electrical tape for that. It seems to work really good. It's inexpensive, it's readily available, and you'll never see it when you're done because it's going to be underneath your bar tape. So make sure, this is a big one. So you've been working on your bike and you got it all fixed up, and you know, you've been cleaning your chain and you've been replacing a cable here or there, whatever it is. Maybe you put a little grease on some things here and there. A little bit of lubrication on that chain. You've been playing around with your greasy rags and all that other fun stuff that comes along with it. Don't forget to wash your hands before you tape your bars. Very important. Unless, of course, you're just taping with black tape and you don't really care. But I would highly recommend that you might want to wash your hands. The other reason is, too, because if you have a lot of oil or gritty stuff on your hands, and it might infect the area that you're trying to tape, in which case the tape may not stick as well. So always clean your hands before you, your greasy mitts, it says here in this article. Clean your greasy mitts before you do it. And you want to, you notice that most of the bar tape that we have out there today is got an adhesive back on it. So you peel back a little small piece of paper back, and then you start from there. I also, before I even get started on that too, I try to, the extra tape they give you, they'll give you these short strips of extra tape with your bar tape, and those are for going around the brake hoods. You want to have the brake hoods rolled back so that you've got open exposure to the bars and to the brakes, so you can make it nice and clean around there. And I have a tendency to tape those short pieces of tape with electrical tape too, just because of the fact that they usually just don't stay stuck by the time you get there. So even though there's a little bit of adhesive on the back, they don't really stay in place as well. And you can do that with either electrical tape, or you can use like a clear Scotch type tape or something like that, just to hold it in place until you get there, and then peel that back and then go in. But there are little tricks that you learn along the way, and when you've taped, you know, a few thousand bars, you get pretty good at it. And that's why your local bike shop is always the answer, because they do it all day long. That's what they do. They tape bars all the time. And so anyway, as you're taping, you need to keep constant tension on the tape when you wrap. Enough to stretch it slightly, but not so much that it tears. Once again, there's a fine line between that. And so you got to be really careful about that. Just make sure that you're not pulling it so hard that you rip the tape, especially if you spend a whole bunch of money on some really fancy bar tape that you're looking at yourself and going, I can't believe I spent that much money on bar tape. Well, you know, you get what you pay for. And, you know, the more expensive tapes tend to have a little bit more cushion in them. Some of the more expensive tapes will actually come with a gel type surface that you can put down underneath the tape, and then you can get a little bit more cushion up on the bars. If you're having problems with your hands at all, that's always a nice thing. Or let's say you're riding in the Paris Roubaix and you're riding over multiple cobbled roads, or maybe a local gravel grinder, which has a lot of bumpiness going on too. You might want a little bit of extra padding under there. So you can always put that down too, but that's all got to be put down first before you tape your bars. And then you've got to get the overlap right. And the overlap is, it's about halfway across the tapes, the width of the tape. And you want to try to overlap it evenly from one wrap around to the next wrap around, because otherwise it just won't look nice. And, you know, it is kind of the finishing touches on your bike to make your bike look nice. You put on some nice fresh handlebar tape and make it look real pretty. So there are lots of other ways that you can tape your bars. I got into all sorts of crazy stuff back when I had the bike shop. We used to do a checkerboard pattern on handlebar tape with old Bonotto tape, if anyone remembers Bonotto tape. Absolutely worthless as far as any kind of padding goes, but definitely looked real pretty. But it was kind of worthless. It was like a cellophane tape. It was really weird. But the bike looked really, really sharp when you wrapped with Bonotto tape. Then we got a little bit more sophisticated. My personal favorite still is and always has been on my road bikes, cyclocross bikes. I really, really like cork tape, because cork tape is, it has a certain, let's say, dampening quality to it, which is very, very nice. And so you tend to get a little bit less road abuse or off-road abuse from your handlebars when you have something that has a dampening quality. But the other thing I really like about it is if you are out riding and you get caught in the rain, or if you in any way sweat a lot when you ride your bike, I know a lot of people do, the cork tape you don't slip on it. It's very, very, it's cork. So cork, you know, if you take a cork, put it in the water, what's it do? It floats. So it's kind of the anti-water. Though that works really, really good. And that's why I've been a big fan of cork for a long time. And there are some synthetic corks out there, but they're not real cork. And finding real cork these days is getting harder and harder to do. Cinelli was always the manufacturer of true cork tape, and they I don't know if you can still find it as much. I know I'm always searching for it to try to find real cork tape, but mostly what's out there right now seems to be synthetic. And then there are different synthetic tapes that have different gripping characteristics too. Some of them do better in moisture than they do when they're dry, so they will help you if you have sweaty palms or get caught in the rain. That's the big one. Getting caught in the rain is never a wonderful thing to have happen. So anyway, it all really kind of comes down to what works for you, and sometimes I think what it really comes down to is You just got to do it enough times that you get good at it. Or you go to your friendly local bike shop and they do it perfectly every single time. It comes out real nice. It looks real nice because the guys and gals that are in the mechanics area that are they're into it. They're into, doing that final touch, that really prettied up nice final touch. So the finishing point is a preference thing. You gotta have to note where your tape is going to end. Hopefully you have enough to get to the end. Sometimes I've had to rewrap a few times because I didn't calculate correctly. And then my overlaps were just a little bit off, so I had to rearrange that and make it work. But when you get to the finishing edge, you want to take a pair of scissors and you want to cut your tape on an angle and make a nice long point to the end of your handlebar tape, and that will give you something to wrap in, and it'll also give you a when you do finish it off, it doesn't give you a big lump at the end when you seal it over. I pretty much seal my tape over with electrical tape when I'm done. And now that you can buy multiple colors of electrical tapes that are out there, you can always get a color that matches the tape you put on, or matches your bike, or somehow accents off the bike. You can get real clever with it, and you can do that. I usually keep a roll of black and a roll of white in the repair shop downstairs, so that if I am taping somebody's bars, I can make them look real pretty when I get done. So it is all up to you. My preference color, obviously, black. Boy, do I like black tape. Black tape is just so easy. It's low maintenance. It doesn't get dirty, look dirty, and you don't have problems keeping it clean. And if you're riding your bike a lot, your tape's going to get dirty. It really is. You're going to somehow, some way, maybe you'll get a flat tire and you need to repair the flat tire. Your hands are going to get dirty, and then you're going to hop on your bike and you're going to have dirty hands on that nice pretty tape, and the tape will just absorb whatever you have on your hands. And so I do like black tape a lot. White tape looks great the first time you put it on, and that's about it. And then it's not so good anymore, unless you have some amazing habits of cleanliness that keep your hands from being dirty in any way. That would, in my world, that would require a long finger glove, and it would be because my fingertips will inevitably have something on them. So anyway, I like black tape. Black tape's great. Hides everything. It's beautiful. Perfect thing. So anyway, I just got a text that ran across here on my phone from my sister, who's out at the Final Four. Yeah, she's going to the championship game tonight. Go Huskies. Yeah, it's kind of a big basketball time of year here in beautiful downtown Mansfield Center and Storrs, Connecticut. So anyway, when you go to put your handlebar plug in at the end, or maybe you'll put a mirror in your handlebar or whatever it is that you use on the ends of your handlebars. A rubber mallet works really good for putting those in, but it's also a little tricky. You got to fold the tape over exactly right and then push it in so it doesn't look all bunched up, and also so that the plug doesn't come out. So you got to have enough material in the inside of the handlebar to be able to hold the plug in place once you put the plug in. So that's it. That's what I have on handlebar tape. It's actually, there is a fine art to it. You can get crazy and colorful. You can use 2 different color tapes. You can use 3 different color tapes. You can get, there's some amazing interesting patterns out there that you can get, and you can make your handlebars look just different, if that's what you're looking for. So I'm like I said, I'm a basic black kind of guy, but whatever works for you. That brings us on to the next point of concern in our show today, and we are going to go to why did I put this down? So I was having this discussion with Too Tall Billy, and he's he said, did you see that crash? And yeah, I've seen a lot of crashes lately. It's just, if you're watching any of the classics right now, there's a ton of crashes going on. And he was pretty convinced that on one of these crashes, maybe the one that Wout Van Aert went down on, I'm not sure exactly which one he was referring to, that it appeared that a tubeless tire had completely collapsed. And that, of course, makes the bike unrideable in any circumstance, and sometimes to the point of actually blowing the tire off the rim, which then creates you riding on either an aluminum or a carbon surface, which doesn't work at all, and down you go. So there's been some discussion about this recently, because it's getting to be more commonplace that we see these catastrophic crashes, and you start to wonder, is it the bad bike handling, or is there actually a mechanical reason that this is happening? I tend to believe that if you got pros in a peloton, that it's probably not handling ability, because to get to that level, you got to be pretty good at handling your bike. I think crashes happen well, for a few reasons, but they happen when the rider is taken by surprise. And being taken by surprise could be a wheel crossing over another wheel. That's definitely a surprise, not one you like to deal with. But if you're a very good bike handler, you can also ride your way out of that situation. By surprise is a bike flying across the peloton and hitting you from the side. That's a pretty big surprise. I've been there, done that. But the big surprise is the mechanical surprise. That's when some sort of catastrophic failure happens on your bike, and you have absolutely no control over it, and there's no way of getting yourself out of that situation. Back in the early days of carbon forks, we were seeing exploding forks. That's a really bad catastrophic failure. And until they really figured out how to make the forks correctly, then, there were some of those issues. They weren't that often, but they would happen. And usually they would happen if a rider was to hit something in the road that was somewhat larger than life, like a pothole or possibly another cyclist or whatever. But that's when you saw that catastrophic fork failure. The other thing, I've seen wheels that have blown up because of people, we call them, in our world, we call them weight weenies. The folks that are trying to lose a couple of grams of weight on their wheels, okay, and not understanding that what they really needed to lose is kilograms off their body to get effectively a much better solution to the problem. And it happens. People, again, they're called weight weenies. They put all sorts of lightweight crazy stuff on their bikes. Back in the day when I was racing my bike, and this goes way back into the 70s, people were drilling things out. They were drilling out their Campagnolo shift levers. They were drilling out their brake levers. And they were drilling them out with kind of mindless abandon, not engineering degree. So they were possibly drilling things in places that were causing stress risers. I saw people breaking cranks because they were drilling the cranks out. I saw people breaking all sorts of things. And it's just not a good practice. If it doesn't come pre-drilled from the factory, it probably shouldn't be drilled. But, everybody was playing around with weight, trying to lose the weight. And, of course, losing the weight in the wrong place, losing the weight on the bicycle instead of on the body. And there's another entire can of worms I'm going to open with that right there, because I don't want to get people crazy about weight reduction on their own bodies and then end up causing themselves a problem there too. So we're not going to go crazy with that. But so let's go on to catastrophic behavior in the peloton, and what it seems to be is we're getting a lot of crashes. Of course, we are in cobblestone season, so the cobbles are rough on the bikes. There's also a point where maybe you will find that if you want to finish an event, it's a lot easier to finish on a piece of equipment that might be a little bit heavier than it is on a piece of equipment that might be too light. So that's where you kind of have to draw that line. And seeing as now we're all migrating over towards wider tires, less air pressure in the tires for better handling, control, and comfort, you got to be real careful about what rim you're putting that on, because if you don't have enough cushion on the rim or enough air pressure in the tire, you could fracture a rim, and that's not a good thing either. So it all comes down to a lot of things is what it is. But the UCI seems to be much more focused on making sure that you have the right size socks on. Yeah, I know. Non-compliant socks. The UCI has increased its fines and penalties for non-compliant socks in 2024 rule update. Guys, really? Socks? Give me a break. What, are we going to be a little too aerodynamic? Are we going to have too much protection on the calves and therefore have some sort of physical advantage? I have no idea what it is, but I did find a clip on it, so I will go there. And this was in Cycling News, so it's got to be one of these guys right here. Yeah, here it is. So the UCI has increased fines and penalties for non-compliant socks and clothing in the 2024 rule update. With muted effort, the UCI published updated regulations for clothing, feeding, and other minor infringements with non-compliant clothing, such as socks that are too high, now punishable by fines up to, yeah, isn't this great? 1,800 euros, or that's $2,250. Yeah. So, because you got the wrong socks on. Other increased penalties apply to drafting behind a vehicle or taking food or drink near the end of a stage race. Directors sportifs also face stiffer fines and punishments for irregular behavior in the race convoy. Drive straight, drive right, as well as fines. The UCI has also increased the number of UCI ranking points that individual riders and their team face for offenses. These points could be vital as the team fights to avoid relegation from the men's World Tour 2025, or pro teams fight to secure World Tour race invitations. So if you have constant violators in your on your team, you may keep you from being able to compete. So that's kind of interesting. But the rider not wearing appropriate clothing during podium obligations is a deduction of 2 to 15 UCI points, and is also added to a $500 fine, or a $500 euro fine, or anyway, somewhere in there. The fines will be assessed to riders using non-compliant clothing in a race, with the team also fined $250 to $500 per rider involved. The higher fines and point deductions will be levied at Olympic Games, Elite World Championships, Men's Elite World Tour events beginning in 2024. The UCI introduced new rules for the legal height of socks and shoe covers for road cyclists in 2019. That language restricted those items must not be extending above the middle of the leg, and it was clarified to a specific measurement, the height defined by half of the distance between the middle of the lateral malleus and the middle of the fibula head. So yeah, they can actually measure you up and give you a fine for it. Seems kind of silly. Just roll the socks down. How about that? Does that count? Who the heck knows? So so one of the more high profile offenders of the high sock rule was Annemiek van Vleuten, and she was given a 200-point fine after winning the road race in 2022 World Championships, and they gave her a fine for her socks. It's the other thing is they've doubled the fines for failure to wear the race leader's jersey or skin suit. Sheltering behind or taking advantage of the slipstream of vehicle. You see it all the time in these races. It's constant. It's like, you have a mechanical, you need to get back in the peloton, you hop in behind a team car, you stay there for a minute or so, and then you sprint up to another team car, and you stay there for a little bit, and then you work your way up. Well, they don't like that a whole lot, apparently. And so even though, getting back onto the peloton, if the peloton is rolling out at 30 miles per hour, is a very difficult thing, and you may not have the effort or power of which to do it, nor you may not have a teammate that slipped back to help you get back up there. So anyway, it happens. If a rider is deemed to demonstrate irregular behavior by passing through a level crossing that is closed or in the process of closing, up to 100 points can be deducted from the UCI rankings, and the rider can face elimination or disqualification. A 20% penalty in the points or mountains classification was added to existing monetary and time assessments in stage races relating to unauthorized feeding in the last 20 kilometers of a stage race. Don't pass anything up in the last 20 kilometers of a stage race. That's not a good thing. Unauthorized feeding could be as much as a team car, giving you food out of the back of the team car, or it could even be a fan passing up food to you while you're racing your bike. And you just don't want to do that. First of all, you don't want to do that from a fan anyway, because who knows what they're giving you. I would not want anything other than what I knew was coming out of my team car. But that's another thing, and it is a reason for disqualification if you're too close to the finish line. So, and I can see that, because what they're trying to eliminate here is someone getting a special food product, quote unquote, that is, going to enhance their sprint finish and make them perform better at the end. So I can kind of see that. I could definitely see that. But the sock thing is just blowing me away, and I just think it's ridiculous, and it's there, and that's not really why I started talking about this. Why I really started talking about this was because I wanted to talk about the exploding tubeless tire situation, and I just got to figure out where I put it here. I know it's here somewhere. So this is definitely an issue that we're starting to notice a little bit more. Those of us who watch bike racing, we see these catastrophic crashes, and you start wondering, geez, is there something wrong with this picture? Where we're taking if we're taking a tire and replacing the rim with a fluid instead in the inside, and you really do kind of look at it like something's not right here. So it's where did I just lost my little forum here. I had this lovely little forum. I'm sure it's in here somewhere. And it just seems like it's something that we probably should be paying more attention to. Oh, here we are. right here. So this was from Paceline Forum is what this was. And this is, go here. Here we go. This is a, the top of the forum was Paris Roubaix crashes sparked debate about tubeless tire safety on the cobbles. So, you know, people are of course mentioning that they wrote a PR and this and on the tubeless tire, this guy says his rear tire pinch flatted on one side in the forest of Arenbeck. And this would be the PSI was too low. I rode it flat probably 30 to 50 yards this way. Lucky you to be able to ride a tubeless tire and without it having popped off the rim. That seems fairly unimaginable. The tire did not come off. He was going 33 kilometers per hour when it happened. He jabbed 2 Dynaplugs in the hole, inflated the tire with a CO2 cartridge, and was off. So anyway, he also mentions that a buddy of his had tubulars and he just shredded them there. So, you know, questionable. What is the weight of the tire that you're riding on? What is the casing construction of the tire that he's riding on? The benefit of running a rear tube in the rear is probably not a bad idea in your tubeless tire. Maybe a little rear tube with a little bit of fluid inside of the tube itself, so it will seal for you if you need to have it feel. I've just seen these tires hit things hard enough to burp, and when they burp, which is the actual phrase that they're using here, they could get pinched hard enough to just blow all the sealant out, and it makes a big mess. The sealant goes everywhere, and then oftentimes that tire will actually just dissolve itself from the rim. It just won't be on the rim at all. It'll just blast itself off with the pressure. So it's an issue, and I think we need to look at it, because I think that this is starting to take down some of our, you know, prime characters in bike racing, because they're getting caught behind one of these crashes or one of these catastrophic failures. I've been complaining about this for a while. I know that I have a lot of listeners out there that swear by their tubeless tires and say they've never had any problems with them. They're wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And I agree, they are on a mountain bike. I just don't like them on a road bike. And so I'm going to continue to ride either tubular or clinchers with tubes in them. And if I'm on a ride that I feel a particular vulnerability to my clincher tire with the tube in it, I'm going to put some fluid inside the tube. That's all. Just put some sealant agent in there, just like you would in the tubeless, but you still have the tube. Why do I say this? Because the tubed tire and the tubular tire stay on the rim pretty consistently in a case of a catastrophic failure of the tire. If they're on the tire, if they're on the rim, you can still ride the bike at least to a stop, and safely to a stop. I watched this in, I think it was in the Paris Roubaix last year. I think Wout Van Aert had a flat, and he rode it out of the cobbles and rode it right onto the regular road. And at that time, he was, you know, shouting out for a wheel change, and he got his wheel change. But fact is, he didn't go down because the tire was firmly glued onto the rim, and he still had a surface of which to ride on. And albeit not very comfortable, because you're just banging down the road on that, you still have some traction on the road to keep you from getting, you know, cleaned out completely while you're riding the bike. Anyway, I've complained about it a lot in the past. I'm complaining about it again now. I'm not a believer. I have not ridden on a tubeless tire yet because I've seen no reason to ride on a tubeless tire. I keep hearing the same description of, but you know, they ride almost as nice as my tubulars. Well, almost as nice as your tubulars means your tubulars ride nicer. All right. Or just like tubulars. What are we comparing to? We're comparing to tubular tires. So what we're doing here is we're comparing them to something that already exists and has been pretty foolproof for a long, long time. And yeah, you get flats. I mean, you get flats on a tubular tire too. It happens. It certainly does. But if you're getting more catastrophic issues on a non-tubular tire, then maybe it's time to not ride on anything but tubulars. And you know, these guys are professionals. They're racers. They get paid to race their bikes. They're given equipment. It's expensive equipment, and we do know that. But you know, and they have qualified mechanics that know how to actually glue a tubular tire on. That's another issue. But I'm going to take a drink of water here before I go on to that. Yes, it is very important to glue your tire on correctly if you're using a tubular tire. There's no question about that whatsoever. And again, back to someone who's really experienced with it. And if you go to your bike shop and you ask them to glue your tubulars, and well, you know, we've never really done that before, but we can do that. Walk out the door, find another bike shop, because that probably isn't the person you want gluing your tire. That's just something I will pass on. If you happen to live near me, you just give me a call and say, hey Ron, can you help me glue my tubulars? And you can come on over and I'll show you how to do it, and I'll do it for you, and your tires will never come off. And well, they will if you have to take them off, but they're not going to come off easily. So anyway, you know, I don't know what the answer is here. The punctures happen, rough road surfaces happen. It's all out there. Choice of the tires that you ride on is a personal thing, but it also can be a very, very practical thing if you look at it carefully. And don't sacrifice weight for durability, ever. Don't do it. Don't do it, because you know, I was doing this. I trained for this great 100-mile ride, and you know, I put in all the miles, and I, you know, I was my bike was in pretty good shape, and you know, that was all good. And then I but I just wanted to, like, you know, lighten up my wheels a little bit, because you know, it's a 100-mile ride, and I just wanted to have it be a special ride. So I bought these super lightweight tires and these super lightweight tubes, and I put them on my bike, and I flatted in 10 miles and couldn't complete the event. So what was the smarter thing to do? Spend weeks and weeks and weeks and maybe months training and getting yourself ready to go, and then using the equipment you already had, which was working for weeks and weeks and months of training, or to put on something very special for that day so you could feel real special, and then have it knock you out in the first 10 miles of your 100-mile ride. You make that decision. That's, to me, the decision is pretty easy to do. I did, when I was racing my bike, I did have a set of race wheels. I had two different sets of race wheels. I had race wheels that I would use for criterium racing, and I had race wheels that I would use for road racing. So I had two different types of wheels. My road racing wheels were very heavy duty. They were not super lightweight. And even though I really wanted to have those lightweight wheels for climbing, I used something I knew I would get to the finish line with. So that's just a little bit of, you know, wisdom from Pedal and Ron about equipment and the choices that we make with our equipment. I like durability. You know, I love lightweight. It feels great. It does feel really, really good. But I really like durability. Durability is good. You know, it's dependable. I know that when I get on my bike, I'm not going to have a problem with it. It's going to be a good thing. So that's all good. Anyway, what else do I have on my list here of things to talk about today? So there are, you know, obviously new safety concerns that are out there. And the UCI is very concerned about these hookless rim and tubeless tire concerns, okay? And this is following its statement regarding several recent incidents involving racers using hookless rims with tubeless tires. The UCI, issued a follow-up statement this morning intending to remind riders of the rules in place for wheel and tire pairings. The statement also announced the preparation of new measures aimed at keeping riders safe. The biggest and perhaps most impactful decision outlined in the statement is the idea that UCI will mandate that teams, riders, and the cycling industry at large work in tandem with what they call here SAFE-R, a recently developed independent entity tasked at improving the safety in UCI-sanctioned road races to determine improvements and clarifications regarding the use of hookless rims and tubeless tires. According to the statement, SAFE-R will make recommendations in the near term to potentially institute new rules for the 2025 season. Additionally, teams and race officials will be required to report any incidents involved in the combination. Teams, riders, and commissaires are asked to report any incident involving hookless rims and tubeless tires that may occur to ensure that the circumstances of the incident can be analyzed in detail. So, you know, they're looking into it, but we're going to get through yet another season of who knows what. And, you know, we got all of 2024 to get through all of this. And we're basically putting highly qualified professional riders out there as guinea pigs to, you know, test out equipment that is maybe not as reliable as the manufacturer would like to make you think. So that's a concern. That's definitely a concern. When in doubt, ride the heavy stuff. Works great. It really does. It stands up well. It's tried and true. You know, I got, you know, my buddy Billy out here. He loves his gator skin tires because they just last. They don't puncture, and he's really, really happy with them. So, yeah. Oh, the Tour of Basques on regular roads. Yeah. Is that the Tour of Basques? Was that the one that the tire blew out? That must have been like a pothole or something like that. And I've seen others. I mean, we had the discussion last year on Bicycle Talk. We were talking about this horrible catastrophic accident which had happened, and you could see the explosion of the tire when it hit a pothole. And you know, potholes happen. It really is true. But so anyway, this is going to be a forever discussion point with me. I'm kind of an old school kind of cranky old guy when it comes to equipment on my bike. I still do not have certain things that most people have on their bikes, and I'm not really interested in going in that direction either. Unfortunately, they're going to stop manufacturing bicycles that are like the ones that I would prefer to have unless you go to a custom bicycle. And I just picked up an old custom bike the other day. And I will be fixing that up, and I'll be riding on that one too. It's a great old steel frame. It'll be a lot of fun. I like steel. I am a big believer in it. The thing is, you can go out and you can buy an old steel bike and it still works really good. If you go out and buy an old carbon bike, not so much. Maybe you might be a little bit cautious about that. Or even an old aluminum bike, not so much. That could be another one that you might want to be a little cautious with. But the old steel bikes, they seem to hold up fairly well. You know, you inspect them and you make sure there's no rust and And hopefully, if you got real lucky, there was some frame saver put inside the frame, and so the frame's preserved in that method, and that works really good too. But they ride different. You just, if you don't understand the difference between how a steel bike rides and a carbon bike and an aluminum bike ride, if you don't understand the difference, then ride the carbon, ride the aluminum. That's fine. Go for it. Have fun. But some of us out there, and I know I got a bunch of friends out here that are purists and they like their old steel frames. They'll even take them out for like special occasions just because, you just want to go out and ride on the steel bike because it's kind of like an old friend. It's really cool. So let us move on our discussion today. And we are getting to that point where I've got to bring up the Monument Man. Last week we talked about the Monument Man, and it is the untouchable Mathieu van der Poel. He won the Tour of Flanders last week, and guess what he did yesterday? He won the Paris Roubaix. He is just one of the more remarkable riders out there. 60 kilometers to go, solo move. Just, again, attacking relentlessly in the areas that he is most comfortable, which is on the cobbles. And he is just so strong. He's got so much wattage. He's so much power. He hammered on them and nobody could stay with him. So, let's see here. So we'll get back to that one next week. I didn't expect to be alone, Mathieu van der Poel said. Just too strong in an unplanned Paris-Roubaix attack. His 60-kilometer move was born out of wanting to make it a hard final among the lead group. He made it hard, all right. He just rode away from him. And again, this guy is just phenomenal. He puts out a wattage that is just beyond believability, almost to the point where you go, geez, really? Can a human being really put out that kind of wattage? This guy's been doing it for years. He's an amazing human specimen is what he is. And on top of that, he can ride his bike in extremely difficult situations. So that makes all these classics, all these cobbled classics, just they're his races. And he said in an announcement late last year, they were talking to him about, his 2024 season, and he said he was going to try to win as many of the Masters as he could. And he's doing it. He's doing what he said. He's just incredibly powerful, incredibly strong. He's wearing the World Championship jersey. He's obviously in a league kind of on his own. And, it wasn't like he didn't have other people around him that were good. They're all very, very good. But Mathieu van der Poel, when he decides to put the hammer down, the rest of the peloton just shakes their heads and goes, "Oh my God, I can't respond. Just can't respond." So anyway, that's our boy Mathieu van der Poel. He's kicking it hard. I tell you what, his Raymond Poulidor, his grandfather, would be very, very proud of him right now for what he's doing out there. Pretty cool stuff. So let's see, what else do I have here on my list? We are getting down to finishing off here, and the calendar section is coming up. So before I finish and go into that, though, too, if you're looking for great little video clips, there's tons of them on YouTube. And if you don't have a subscription service to a cycling-oriented cable stream or whatever, you can always pick up, some recaps and updates and different things on YouTube, and it's all free, so it's definitely fun to watch and a good way to, keep in touch with what's going on and understanding it all. So I'm going to go on to events, and I'm going to say that our Thread City Cycler Club started their Saturday rides on Saturday. Not too many people showed up because it was a little on the chilly side and it wasn't the best weather for it. But they will continue every Saturday, and we will, if you're a member of the club, you get little meetups from us, and you get to find out where we're going next. And there's all sorts of really cool stuff planned for the summer. The Sea Otter Classic is April 18th through the 21st in Monterey, California. If you've never been to the Sea Otter Classic, if you ever wanted to make a great vacation, a great cycling vacation, it's just this huge festival of bicycles. It's very, very cool. Definitely a cool thing. The Maid Show will be in Australia on June 28th and 29th, and in Portland, Oregon on the 23rd through the 25th. Those are handmade steel bicycles, a lot of them, and it's kind of a cool thing. The domestic events, the guys who put on the Natchog Epic have another epic coming up in Lime Rock in the fall, and I'll have more information on it when we get there. The Ride of Silence is Wednesday, May 15th, rain or shine, 7 p.m. sharp rollout. If you can get there a half an hour before, you'll be able to find plenty of parking next door at E.O. Smith High School or wherever. You can find places in the town hall parking lot. But be aware of the fact that we are getting a lot more response this year than we've had in previous years. So hoping that we can roll out right around 7. It's a 3.5 mile loop through Uconn campus and also out on State Road 95, Connecticut 95, 195, excuse me. So it is but it's completely controlled by the Uconn Police Department. Helmets are required. Max speed is 10 to 12 miles an hour. It is a ride of silence. It is a ride of protest, so to speak, and honor for those who have been either hurt or killed by a motorized vehicle while riding their bike. There is a ride on the east on June 8th out of Gilson Square Museum in Willimantic, Connecticut. And it's going to be exploring the Scenic Airline Trail, and the East Coast Greenway Alliance and Trust for Public Land is who's involved with this. It's a 48-mile ride and an 18-mile ride. The Project Mayhem Cyclocross Series is coming soon. The Steeplechase Bike Tour is coming in August. I'll have more information on that real soon. Steeplechase Bike Tour this year will have 2 gravel rides this year. We had 1 gravel ride last year. We got a fair amount of turnout on that. We have added another segment onto that, making the 18-mile ride that we had last year into an additional 40-mile ride. So you have 2 choices now on gravel, and it's beautiful, and it's mostly on dirt roads, and it's really kind of a cool thing. So finishing points, go Huskies. Yeah, we're watching tonight. Tonight's a big night. I'll be staying up late watching the game. It'll be a big thing, we hope. And then I'm off to spin class tomorrow morning. So we do love your listener comments. Please keep them coming. What do you think about tubeless tires? I hate to ask that question because I get all sorts of comments about being an old retro grouch and blah, 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 but whatever. So 2024, more miles, ride a commute to work around town, better fitness, or simply enjoying the bike rides you take by slowing down and smelling the roses. I'll say it again, it won't be my last time. Get loud, get active. Our time has come. Stop complaining about traffic, dangerous roads, the price of gas, the lack of places to safely ride your bike, and join the revolution of change. Hey, take a day off, park the car or truck, and ride your bicycle instead. You just might surprise yourself. The views expressed in this program do not reflect the views of the staff, management, or the licensee of this station. This is Bicycle Talk, and you are listening on WHUS 91.7 in Storrs, Connecticut, beautiful University of Connecticut. Hopefully there'll be a big celebration up there this evening. You can listen to past episodes of Bicycle Talk on WHUS.org, iTunes, Spotify, and now on my Bicycle Talk YouTube channel. This is Pedalin' Ron. Remember, keep that rubber side down, the wind at your back. Get out and ride your bike. It really could save your life. This is 91.7 FM, WHUS Storrs, and WHUS.org. Go Huskies. Thanks for listening.